Okay, we're going to take a look at how to use Data Studio. In chemistry, we'll be doing a lot of graphs and graph things. If we're not using paper, how are we going to graph? Well, we're going to graph on the computers. And there's a program called Data Studio. So once you've turned your computer on, you've signed in, on the desktop, you'll see this icon, this Data Studio icon. So double click on that to open it up. And what you will see, oh, maybe I didn't double click. Oh, it's already open. So I'm going to close it actually. Close it. Let me see. Okay, now I'm going to double click on Data Studio. What you'll see is it'll open, and then it'll give you a choice here. It'll say open activity, create experiment, enter data, or graph an equation. Sometimes we'll do create an experiment if we are using a probe, such as a pH probe. But if we're just entering data and we want to get a graph, we do enter data. Now, once we do enter data, this screen should pop up. So a couple things about a graph. The horizontal axis we said was called the x-axis before, and it is the location when getting data in a lab that you put what's called the independent data or the independent variable. And independent starts with I, and the way I remember data is it's the data that I decide. And what goes on the y-axis is known as the dependent variable. The y-axis is known as the dependent variable. So this is the independent, this is the dependent. For example, if we were studying the effect of brightness of light on a moth, the independent variable would be the thing that I am choosing. That would be the brightness of the light. I can change the brightness. The dependent variable, the thing that depends on that brightness, is the moth's reactions. And so the data for the brightness would go on the x because it's the independent. The moth's reactions would go on the y since it's the dependent. What we want to do here is we want to set up our graph so that it looks proper. You're going to go to the upper left-hand corner here to Summary. You're going to click on that, and it's going to just shrink the graph a little bit. It's going to give you some options. Okay? What I'd like you to do is double-click on this edible data here. Not edible data, editable data. Probably edible data out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to name the graph. So for example, you always name your graph or your data as y versus x. So in an example of moth brightness versus or light brightness versus moth eating, we would label it light brightness versus moth eating habits. So the independent independent variable, I have that wrong. We want to go y versus x. So the y would be the dependent variable, so it would be moth eating habits. That's the dependent variable versus the independent variable, which is light brightness. So it's always y versus x. We also would like to change the names of our variables. So variable x, we could name this as light brightness, and we can put the unit that we want. So watts. Y, we can change y to be moth eating habits, and then this will be bugs per second, something like that. So okay, and what we see is now that our data table is updated, so now we're able to put some data in. So in the next video, we will take a look at how to graph this data, and once you have named it, graph. So that's that.